Liberty Nation. Truth is making a comeback.
Hello and welcome to Liberty Nation's LNTV. I'm your host, Mark Angelides, and today I'm joined by the incomparable Jeff Charles to discuss crime and punishment. No, not the book, rather the state of incarceration, the judicial system, and what the real purpose is. So thanks for being here, Jeff.
Thanks for having me.
Always an absolute pleasure. So to kick off, what to you is the purpose of prisons?
So prisons, I mean, that's kind of a debate that's been going on for a while. I mean, should it be used for rehabilitation? Should it be used for punishment or something else? I think really punishment and rehabilitation don't have to be mutually exclusive. So depending on the offender, depending on the case, it can be used for both. When somebody commits a crime that is serious enough to get somebody into prison, then there is the punishment there. But I think while they're being punished, it's a overall greater benefit to society and to the person to also see about rehabilitating them as well, so that they're less likely to reoffend when they do get out.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, for me, on a personal level, I'm more concerned about dangerous people being behind bars. Now, I might sound cruel, but I don't care if they have to spend the rest of their lives behind bars, if that keeps my family, the people I care about, if it keeps them safer. I mean, is the court system and the whole method of incarceration, is it just a way to make sure that you and I, people who follow the law, that we're safer? Is that what it's for?
I would say that that's also a third aspect, especially when it comes to somebody who has committed violent crimes, whether it's, rape, murder, assault. We do need to be kept safe from these people. So keeping them in prison, it gives them punishment and it keeps people on the outside safe. I also think that when it comes to rehabilitation, if somebody is able to be rehabilitated for a violent crime, let's say it was just like a basic case of assault, and they were rehabilitated to where they don't, again, reoffend when their sentence is up, that also keeps society safe as well. But yeah, I do think that there is a place for prisons as far as keeping law-abiding people safe.
Yeah, it's a massive question. It really is. I mean, when is it more appropriate to apply prison sentences as a punishment rather than as a method of rehabilitation? In your opinion?
I would say when it comes to offenses that involve maybe selling illegal drugs, like drug dealers, in that case, it's appropriate for it to be a punishment. When it comes to violent criminals, murderers, people who commit those type of offenses, they should deal with the consequences of their actions. And imprisonment is one of the ways that that can happen. Now, sometimes people can be rehabilitated even when they have life sentences. They may not be getting out of prison because that is the consequence of the action that they committed. But when they're rehabilitated, it does give it still gives a better benefit to society. But yeah, I mean, with certain types of violent crimes, there should be a level of punishment as well.
Yeah, we talk a lot about paying your debt to society. And I know this is a little bit off topic, but we talk about paying your debt to society. And this is a very common term, both in your country and mine. But I wonder about how well can an individual pay off their debt to society if they spend the majority of their active life in prison. It does make me question certain sentences. I mean, obviously there's the aspect of keeping you and I and our families and our loved ones safer, but how can somebody really make a more of a contribution to society if they're going to spend the remainder of their days behind bars? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree. That kind of brings to mind the situation with Matthew Charles, who
was a relation of Jeff Charles, by the way. Not a relation.
No relation. Yeah, no relation. Yeah, at least as far as I know. But Matthew Charles, who was convicted of selling drugs back in the 90s, served a 20-year sentence and he recently went back to prison because the prosecutor's office appealed his case and they sent him back. But to me, he's an example of somebody who was dealing drugs, which is a dangerous profession, which does ruin and even end lives as well. Even though he may not have personally killed anyone or personally hurt anyone, the product that he sold is responsible for ruining lives. At the same time, during his stay in prison, he was rehabilitated. He was teaching a Bible study every week. He got his GED. He became a law clerk. He helped other inmates get their GED as well. So this is a man who was clearly rehabilitated. And when he got out, during the time he was free, he was spending his weekends at the food pantry helping to feed the homeless. So this is an example of how somebody can pay off their debt to society. Yeah, we all feel great when somebody gets punished, but in his case, I think he was overly punished. And on top of that, he had changed his life around in a way that allowed him to benefit the lives of other people once he got out. To me, that is a prime example of paying off your debt to society and becoming a contributing member of society.
Yeah, I think I'm with you on that one, Jeff. I mean, do you believe that, I mean, I've heard this a lot about black Americans being disproportionately imprisoned. So, I mean, is there a racial element to incarceration rates in America? I know that this, based on the numbers, this isn't a thing in my country. It's not. It's pretty much as you'd expect. Like there's this percentage of this race of people in society as a whole, and that's pretty much what we've got in the prison system as well. It's kind of across the board. But what do you think? What's the American situation like?
That is a very complex situation. I mean, and I think that both sides are kind of guilty of oversimplifying it. So there could be a racial aspect here, maybe because blacks are more likely to get longer sentences. They're more likely to get certain types of convictions. At the same time, when it comes to violent crimes, black people are more likely to offend. Half of the homicides that occur in the United States are committed by black offenders. But when it comes to other crimes, like say drug crimes, there's not that much of a difference, and yet black people are incarcerated more often for drug crimes, where studies have shown that black people don't necessarily do drugs more than other races. Now, there could be a lot of other reasons for that. Could there be prejudice involved? It's possible, but there also could be other factors as well. Maybe those neighborhoods are policed more often, or maybe there are other factors that play into that. Either way, it's an issue that does need to be rectified. But it needs to be rectified on a cultural level in the black community. But I think also our justice system needs some reform too when it comes to the sentencing. A lot of black people get really long sentences, 20 years, 30 years for selling weed, or even for smoking meth. We've got 3 strikes laws that can get people near life sentences for offenses that don't warrant that.
Yeah, you know, I read a report on the 3 strikes laws. The 3 strike laws, and it tends to be that the people who hit the 3rd strike are almost, they're approaching their use by date as criminals, if you know what I mean. So they're approaching, they're in their like early 30s or so, which is about the time when most people sort of start moving away from crime anyway. So what the people you're putting away are people who are coming to an end of their criminal careers, as it were. Yes, it needs a lot of consideration. I think maybe we'll do another LNTV on this particular topic. I think that'd be very interesting, Jeff. One more question for you, Jeff. Let's say you personally have the power to redesign the whole system. I won't ask you what you do from nuts to bolt. It's far too big a question. What's your first step?
I mean, that is a really complicated question, but I would say overall, I would take a look at our sentencing procedures. I would take a look at, again, the purpose of the prisons. Is it just for punishment, or should it also be for rehabilitation? In my estimation, it should be for both. Yes, you do get the punishment, but we spend about 30 grand per year per inmate. If somebody is in jail, which they shouldn't be, but listen, if somebody's in jail because they're addicted to cocaine, it makes more sense. It makes more sense to rehabilitate them. It costs maybe about 3 grand. I just saw 3 grand to rehabilitate somebody rather than locking them up for 30 years. that's a big fiscal issue as well. So there's the moral aspect, but there's also the fiscal aspect as well. So I think we need to take a hard look at our sentencing. And I'm actually glad that the president is willing to take a look at this. I'm not sure how much he'll accomplish, but he's taken some very encouraging steps towards this.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's very much a state's issue, though, isn't it? Is that right?
It is, but there are also federal prisons as well. And my hope would be that if he works to reform this in a way that's more equitable, in a way that actually benefits society, maybe more states will follow. Because really, it is an overall benefit to society. I don't think we gain much by the way we're handling it right now.
You know what, Jeff? That absolutely sums it up. We don't gain much by having hundreds of thousands of people rotting in jail cells. Sure, we gain the safety from the violent criminals, yes. But other than that, what do we really have for these massive buildings, this whole structure? Jeff, an interesting topic and some wonderful ideas from you. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining us, Jeff. It's always a pleasure to have your insight.
Thank you. Awesome, thank you.
And most of all, thank you to you at home for watching. Now, it's easier than ever to get your daily dose of truth. You simply download the new LibertyNation.com app from the App Store or Play Store, and you can access the top news and analysis on your phone at any time. Now, we're doing a prize draw for our exclusive Liberty Nation Truth is Making a Comeback caps. All you have to do is subscribe to the channel and leave a comment. We'll choose a selection at random, and the winners out the hat. We'll send you a cap anywhere in the world. So remember, with Liberty Nation, truth is making a comeback. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again.
Subscribe and like this video. LibertyNation.com, where truth is making a comeback.